Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, my name is Kylie Warry, author, speaker and trainer, and today you're joining us for Communication in Crisis. Today we are speaking about how to deal with the damage from a crisis. We spoke about this a little bit last episode and we focused on the powerful and the patient communication styles. Today we're speaking about the playful and the perfectionist communication styles and how they can deal with the damage, with the washout after a crisis. So you've been through some type of storm, something's been really difficult. You're through the worst of it though, so it's really important to be able to just stop and take a breath and realise that you're through. The next thing you need to do though is be able to learn from this, to gain wisdom and to gain insight. Really, when we talk about a crisis, most of the time they're things that we can't change, we can't do anything about. So the best thing we can do with a crisis is to learn from it, to grow and to gain wisdom. When we do that, we actually gain strength. So we talked a lot about the cycle of offence. We've talked about when things go wrong, and if we don't know how to handle it, if we don't recognise that it's happening, then we can spiral upwards from an impact of something going wrong to being in a stage of resentment. And that's a place where none of us want to be. And it's so easy for this to happen. I remember many years ago with one of my stepchildren who we had a bit of a difficult relationship for a while. And I remember always feeling rejected by her. And to the point where I almost wouldn't have those difficult conversations because I didn't want to rock the boat. I remember one morning I'd asked her to do the dishes before we left for school. And she was running late, she didn't want to do them. Now normally I'd let it slide, but today I stuck to my guns and I said, no, we're not leaving for school until you do the dishes. Well, all hell broke loose. She was so angry, she was breaking dishes more than she was washing them. And I was in the corner thinking, oh, why did I do it? Like I started to go down this, I went in the cycle of offence, I was getting upset. I was thinking, she thinks I'm the worst person in the world. Why did I even cause this fight? We walked to the car, my youngest was with us, and it was like the ice queen was in the car with us, that the temperature in that vehicle just dropped by about 10 degrees. No words, halfway to school. And all of a sudden, she gets out her mobile phone and she starts madly texting and writing things. Now, my offended self started thinking, great, now she's texting all of her friends about how much she hates her wicked stepmother. My self-talk was going crazy and I really was spiraling out of control. The great thing is, and there's hope for you too, I recognised what I was doing. And I decided that I wasn't going to stay in this place. So I thought, what can I do to get out of this cycle of offence? So I was brave, courageous you might even say. And I asked the question, so what are you texting on your phone? And she went, oh, I've got a history test this morning and I'm just texting some of my friends to make sure that they're studying and they're ready for the tests and just checking out what they've done and if we're all ready. The relief. It wasn't about me. Who was I to think that she was still even focused on me? I'm not that important, but I'd gotten caught up in this cycle. But the great thing is about the cycle of offence is that you can stop it. You can move from this cycle to a much healthier cycle, the cycle of courageous communication, where we do sometimes those difficult things, but we speak up so that we can actually stop this negative cycle. So I spoke up. Now, I wonder if you have the strength of character, the strength of your own beliefs to speak up in a difficult time. Most people don't. Most people avoid the difficult times. They avoid the difficult conversations. They don't have them, and therefore the offence, the crisis, the stress just grows. Now, we've been talking about a lot of steps through this cycle. We've talked about impact and wound and treatment, and now we're talking about how we can heal. Because the thing is, to get through a crisis well and to grow and gain wisdom, you need to heal. And each of the DNA styles does this differently. So today we'll focus on the playful and the perfectionist communicator and what they can do to heal after a crisis. Now, the process of healing is quite an interesting one, and I want to share with you from a biological perspective what happens. Imagine that you're chopping the vegetables for dinner and you cut your finger quite nastily. Now, that first stage of the healing process after the wound is that cut, and it's called inflammation. It's sore, it's red, it hurts. And it's part of the healing process has already begun, the moment after you cut yourself. The next stage is a stage called proliferation. Now, basically, this is a stage of growth. So whatever you're doing will grow. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And in the case of healing in communication crisis, you need to know, what are you doing? Are you telling yourself, I can learn from this, things will get better, it will improve? That's a good proliferation. Or are you saying things like, oh, this is horrible, I'm here again, I've stuffed up, I've failed? If you're saying things like that, that's a really negative proliferation. And whatever you do is going to grow and stay, so you need to be aware of that. The last stage is called maturation, and this is where the process of that healing gets to the point where you have grown and learned, and you've basically got a wound that's healed. Now, we all want to get to this place, but we want to make sure that when we get there, we've got a wound that's healed well. I don't want you to be like one of those people that the moment something familiar comes up that was a bad experience, that you recoil, that you get anxious, you get fearful, and you think, oh my gosh, I'm here again. It's all going to go wrong. That's not what we want. We want you to be healed from it, which means that when that experience comes up again, you go, oh, I've seen you before. I know what you are. And you don't let those emotions get out of hand. So again, we go back to this roadmap for better communication. Now, again, this is a simple roadmap because in a crisis, we need simple. The moment we head into a crisis, physiologically, our brain changes. Under stress and tension, our thinking brain actually switches off. Scary thought, huh? But it switches off when we go into our reptilian brain, and that's how we get into survival mode and we keep going. Now, in communication, that's really dangerous because if we're not thinking about what we're saying, then we're at greater ability to actually communicate poorly. And you'll notice that as stress and a crisis increases, our ability to communicate well actually takes a nosedive. So you need to know how to communicate, and you need to have a very clear process of communicating well in a crisis. Complex is not all we need simple. So the first step is understanding yourself. What makes you tick? What are your strengths? What do you love? What don't you love? What is your stress response in a crisis? What type of people do you naturally are attracted to in terms of friendships and relationships? You meet them and you go, oh, I like you. And what types of people that you meet within 5 seconds and you're like, I don't like you. We all have those people. And the thing is we have to be able to get past that and work with everyone, especially in a workplace or a business, or with customers. We can't pick and choose our customers necessarily. So we need to understand ourselves. Once we understand ourselves, we then go to the second step, which is understanding others. You cannot understand someone else until you fully understand yourself. So understanding others means that you're also aware of what their strengths are, what they bring to the table, how to bring out the best in them, the best ways to encourage and motivate. If you're a leader, for example, in a team or a business, you need to know that each of your staff are fundamentally different, and they all then need to be led in a different way. You'll get the best out of your team if you're able to do that. The third stage is to communicate with intention. Now, intention from the perspective of communication is communicating with care and with purpose. So, especially in a crisis, you need to have care and purpose when you communicate. You need to know, is what I'm about to say here going to inflame the situation and make it worse? Or am I going to calm things down and encourage and help people feel safe so we can step through this crisis well? So this roadmap is critical to you getting through a crisis. Now, we've spoken a lot about our communication DNA, and by now, if you've been with us from the beginning, you're probably leaning towards one or two of the DNA styles that are your predominant styles. Now, if this is the first time you're seeing this, then I encourage you, go back to the beginning and look at the beginning episodes and follow us through to this point. We've put this series together very strategically, and it's in a logical sequence to help you learn your style and understand how you respond in a crisis. So you need to know, are you naturally one of those people that takes action in a crisis and just goes into work mode? Or are you one of those people that becomes crazy and fun and tells more stories and just gets a bit nuts in a crisis? Maybe you're one of those people that avoids and just puts their head in the sand and goes, nope, I'm not doing this. Or you might be someone else who sort of looks back and gets a bit concerned about that crisis and gets a bit concerned about how we're handling it and starts picking apart what people are doing and gets very critical. Regardless of what your style is, every single DNA style has strength and value, and they all bring very valuable things to a crisis. But they need to know what they are. You need to know your strengths, your values, what you bring in order to use it in a crisis. So today we're looking at the playful communicator in a crisis and how they can heal after that trauma. Now, remembering the playful communicator, they're about 30% of the population. They're talkative, they're fun, they're dramatic, they like to tell stories. If you've got anyone in your world like this, you'll know, because they are the storyteller. They're the one who's in the center of attention, always making people laugh. They're warm, they're magnetic. They're attracted to jobs like business development, marketing, sales, anywhere where they can talk for a living and just be around people. One of their worst case scenarios would to be in a room on their own and not have anyone to talk to. That would be like a jail sentence for them. They need people energize them. They're very extroverted. So remembering our famous example of the playful communicator, Ellen DeGeneres. And what we observe about these guys is that they're talkative, loud, and funny. What they want is recognition. So whatever they contribute, they need to be noticed. If you don't notice it, it hurts these guys more than your average person. And what they need is a fun work environment, people that are interesting and friendly, and people that I really want them to be around. Their whole goal in life is to be liked by everybody. Now, the things that can impact these guys more than the other styles in a crisis is when they don't get that recognition, when things get a bit serious and stuffy and boring. They really struggle with that. And when they're hurt or when they're wounded in a crisis, basically the things that we observe get stronger. So if you can imagine it, they talk even more. And the nature of a crisis is when things are out of control and where things are serious and even a bit scary. So for these guys, they get even crazier and make...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.